that the community can't stand. So everybody came in. You know, the guys that during my term, you know, the LeVar Arringtons of the world that was everything community that participated, that was around. The change, you know, the change to Dan and everything that had to go along with it. I think it was '05 or something. I just remember we had the city on fire, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
And the Wizards was good. Just the sports period at that time. It was a memorable. It seemed like it was a longer run, but it was really like '05. You know, '04. I think we showed some signs. '05, we had an opportunity. '06. Kind of shuffleboard, got injured. '07, we had another opportunity, and then I think everything with Sean just embedded us in the community. But just for that short period, and what the guys that was in that town, Karan Butler, Gilbert Arenas, you know, Deshaun Stevenson. When you look at the imprint that the sports world left on the city of DC at that time, you know, it was just a different vibe.
I'm on Canada driving right now, but there's Casamigos nearby.
Water. My wife likes Casamigos. I can't drink tequila.
Well, what are you drinking, Nick?
I'm about to say, come on, you let us know.
Tito's.
Oh, Tito's. You said Tito's?
Did I cut Tito's?
Yeah, Tito. Oh, yeah, you can't get wrong with Tito's.
Tito's in a green cup.
Now the question is, are you drinking it straight, or do you got a little mixture in there?
I don't know when it happened, but I maybe it was COVID. I was just home too much and drinking too much. But I've become a total baby. B-Mitch made a lot of fun of me for this. I like Tito's and soda with a little bit of grapefruit juice, but I prefer pink grapefruit juice to regular grapefruit.
He got a specific grapefruit juice.
Yo,
that sounds really refreshing. That's a refreshing drink.
It's refreshing as hell. We were at an event for B-Mitch's book signing last week or 2 weeks ago, and the bartender was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "Yeah, you know, Tito soda, splash of grapefruit," and they're like, "Yeah, no problem." I was like, "Do you by chance have pink grapefruit?" And the whole bar just started clowning me.
And how did that shit feel in 2015 to win the title?
Man, it was exhausting. Like, that was my
yes, sir.
That was my first championship ever. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, you know, I didn't play on a whole lot of good teams,
shout out to that
just
man,
growing up in general. So
shout out to them boys.
And the way
in
that,
the Bay,
our head coach kind of went about
the San Francisco 49ers, man, they got a good little matchup against the Dallas Cowboys this week, bro. A good little matchup. Let me go ahead and turn to the thing right quick.
It was crazy kind of going into it because I got released by the Jets. I ended up being #1 overall
pick
in there.
There we go. Move that thing from the. Yeah, shout out to Eric Crocker, man. I'm looking forward to that playoff game, Dallas and San Francisco, man. I got a good little feeling that San Francisco may cover that thing. You know, I'm a Dallas hater, but I seriously think that San Francisco got a good shot against the Dallas Cowboys. Anyway, welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast, provided to you by 214 Media. I am your host, Molly Mo. Jamal Forrest and Dre and AJ are on their way. We got some things to talk about, right? We got a few things to talk about. Ron Rivera spoke to preview his offseason and recap his 2021 season, I guess, in a nutshell. And Marty Herney, I keep saying it. Marty Herney and Martin Mayhew, that stuff, their names is always going to confuse me. But Martin Mayhew spoke alongside Ron Rivera today as well. And he gave his outlook on some things. And before we talk about it, I'll give you a preview for those who haven't heard. There's nothing wrong with this because you're supposed to be on the same page. But if you were hoping to see or expecting or thinking that there may be some inconsistencies in their messaging and their answers and their responses between each other, then that's not the case. Ron Rivera and Martin are on the same page as they move forward to this offseason. What's going on, T? It's good to see you. I hope you're doing well. I know since we last talked, You're going through some things. So I hope things are well with you. I hope your family is okay, and things like that. Let me go ahead and transition to the phone. Why is my camera zoomed in like this? Jesus Christ. Hold on, bro. I don't like when they do this, man. I got a big forehead, dog, and a big nose. Let me edit. It's still there. That's not good. How about this? Fucking StreamYard, man. Damn. What's going on, Dre? How you feeling, bro?
It's good, man. Shit, man. Ready to get this off season started.
Ready to get the off season, man. It's day one. Day one of however many days, 3 months, 90-some days till we get to that draft season, or officially get done with draft season. So I feel it, man. How you week? Everything's good?
Yes, sir, man. Like I said, I was watching, I guess we're going to get into it tonight, but I was just trying to catch up on all the comments Ron and was making today. And then we saw the Joe Judge news, man. It's a sad day in the NFC East today, man. I wanted that boy to stay around for years.
I thought they was gonna stick to their guns. They said that boy was gonna stay here. They was gonna let that what's the name? Gettleman retire, save himself from that firing title. He retired. I thought they was gonna keep that boy Judge. They said he too stupid. We can't rock with stupid. You know
that's
what
I shed
hard.
a tear when I heard that news today, man. I had to pull over for a second. I was driving and I got the notification. So damn, they fired that stupid motherfucker.
I hope you had tissue in your car, bro. What's going on? What's going on, Merle? All right. So we have a few things on the agenda here. I think the most important thing is obviously Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew. So we're going to breeze through the player quotes. Obviously, for those who don't know, when the season is over, especially for teams who don't go to the playoffs, Monday is that day where you kind of have your exit conference from the players' perspective. So we're going to breeze through these quotes. Some of these quotes that's probably important from key players and things like that, and then get to the meat of the bone of tonight's show and Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera. And what I'll do for everybody that's watching, of course, if you're watching on Twitter, make sure you try to migrate to Twitch and YouTube so you can be a part of the discussion. And because my boy Wilson hit the chat Sunday, if you want to donate, the PayPal link is on my Twitch. Also, if you want to subscribe, subscription is I think it's simple. You can subscribe through Twitch as well. It's $5 for a tier 1, and that helps support the stream and helps support the cause that we got going on, I guess. The work that we put in over here, it just shows your support. So that's how that works. All right. The Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew thing I'll share for everybody that's watching. And then I'll read along, obviously, for those who will be listening to the podcast. So you'll see everything that we'll be looking at in terms of their quotes. Let's go ahead and get to these player quotes, though, Dre. There was quite a few people who spoke. It was probably close to like 10 or so players that they got. And I think we can start with Brandon Sheriff. And I think it's good because speaking of Merle called in on Wednesday. Oh, Jesus Christ, where am I at? Merle called in on Sunday after the game and talked about, his idea of a good offseason. And I'll just read this verbatim and we can keep it pushing unless you have a comment. And he said, to close out one of his quotes, he said, "I'd love to be here, and I hope I can end my career here." I said that the last couple of times, and that's always the goal for me, to kind of finish where you started. I think we got something good building here, and yesterday was a good stepping stone of where we can go. First and foremost, I guess I'll just ask you this. We don't have to spend too much time on these players, but first and foremost with Sheriff, how would you feel about him coming back if it was market value, or is this something where you're ready to move on from Brandon Sheriff because of the price tag?
I mean, market value, hell yeah, I'll take Brandon Sheriff back. But anything more than that, like trying to be the highest paid guard in NFL history or whatever he's trying to accomplish, absolutely not. Because like I said, he doesn't give you 16 to 17 games a season. I mean, he doesn't even give you, I guess, 80%. He probably plays about 70% of the games every year. And I think too, I mean, if he wanted to be here, he would have signed the extension a couple of years ago. I feel like if he really, really wanted to be here, like he says he does in his comments. You look at Jonathan Allen, a guy who said he wanted to be here and he got a deal done to be here. So you look at Brandon Scherff, it's been the exact opposite for the last couple of years. But yeah, if you can get him for market value and he wants to sign here for that, cool, bring him back. But anything more than that, no.
Okay. All right. What's going on, AJ? How you feeling?
I'm good, man. Just having some technical difficulties with the stream, y'all.
I ain't know that. I ain't know it was a problem. Well, shoot, I'm lying. I know it's a problem all the time.
Yeah, I ain't have a different browser, so I'm trying to download the Google Chrome right now.
Okay. What's going on, Mont? How you feeling? Okay, I'm about to say, I'm sure you're talking about Sheriff. How you feeling, Mont? All right. So, quick answer Q&A for you, AJ. Do you bring or would you bring Sheriff back for the market value, or is he something where the price is already too high for him?
I mean, I feel like, in my honest opinion, I don't think that Brandon Scherff is that great to be making $18 million a year, or even more than $17 million a year. I think it just really boils down to the market dictates that he should get $18 million a year. He should be the highest paid. You have Joe Tooney, who came from New England. He's a guard. He's the highest paid guard in the NFL right now. He's with the Kansas City Chiefs. He doesn't have the resume of a Brandon Scherff. He's getting $16 million a year. And Brandon and his representatives understand that, you know, if he hits the open market, he's probably going to even get more than $18 million a year, because this is how the market typically dictates itself when it comes to big name free agency guards in the NFL. So he really doesn't have – he doesn't lose anything unless he really wants to be here in Washington. But at this point, you know, all the chips are in his favor. If he re-signs with Washington, he'll be the highest paid guard. If he doesn't, he'll still be the highest paid guard. It just really boils down to what situation does he prefer to be in. But I also think for Washington, it's all about succession plan. Like, who is going to fill in for Brandon if you can't, you know, make that happen at $18 million or whatever you agree to. It's who's really going to play right guard. And I don't have the answer. I don't even know who's available. I don't think the answer is also on the roster at this moment. So it's really all about the succession plan to make those things happen.
Well, I want to speak on that. I will say I think the answer is actually on the roster. I think Schweitzer always comes in and performs adequately. Every time Brandon Scherff is out, I don't think you miss much whenever, you know, a Wes Schweitzer has to come in and fill in for Brandon Scherff. I mean, not to say that he's a Pro Bowler or all-pro level, but you don't really need that at guard. I mean, it's great to have it, but, you know, if you got some pretty decent tackles on your, you know, side, you're pretty good with a Wes Schweitzer type filling in for Brandon Scherff at right guard.
I think AJ brought up a good point, and both of y'all did actually. But that succession plan, regardless of which route they go, it is what it is. But specifically, if you decide to go to that route of letting Scherff walk, that succession plan has to at least be competent. And Schweitzer, like you said, has been pretty good in his spot roles that he has here. One thing's for sure though. We'll definitely understand or get to test that theory out. Get to test that theory out of how important Brandon Scherff is, because apparently when he's not playing, we are winless. So
I don't think that has much to do with him.
Exactly. I never believed it, but people swing. They throw that little record out there. We're winless when Brandon Scherff isn't playing. So if he walks, we'll throw that out of the window and see how true of an impact he really was to this team, which I doubt it had anything to do with anything. Just a coincidence. All right. So for Curtis Samuel up next, we have a full quote, and if you all have a comment, I'll hand it to you all afterwards. or we could just keep it pushing. But for those who have missed Curtis Samuel's exit conference or presser, it goes as following. He's talking about his year with the Washington football team in 2021. It was frustrating. It was a real tough year. It was probably one of the toughest years mentally. Just couldn't be out there with my teammates, and that was frustrating. That was frustrating me more than anything, just not being out there. I really think that I learned a lot from this year, and the feeling I have now going into this offseason is kind of really scary because I feel like I'm going to get so much better, and I've told everybody my main goal is to be healthy next year because I know the things that I can do, and I know the things that I can bring to this team if I'm out there on the field. And that's one of the quotes that he had. He also mentioned that he was feeling 100% at this point of the season, or at this point of the year, which is, I mean, it means nothing because it's at the end of the year. But that is a Curtis Samuel quote. I'll stop now. If you all have had anything of opinions on Curtis Samuel, I'll go ahead to Chase Young.
For me, Curtis, I mean, it was just unfortunate. I thought the team did him a big disservice by not putting him on IR. They kept on, I guess, expecting him to, get the groin healthy, but it seemed like, I mean, he had surgery on it, which a lot of us didn't, know until, later on in the season. But I thought they did him a big time disservice by just keeping him out there every week, seeing if he can go every week. And you get the side field comments every week because he just wasn't ready to play. You should have just shut him down a long time ago and got that over with. But be that as it may, he says he feels good. Hopefully the groin is, 100% because that's a guy we need to rely on next year. We signed him. We got him here for a couple of years. He was one of our big time free agent signings last year. So we need him to be a piece going forward. I mean, I still think we need to add another wide receiver because I don't think you could totally rely on him after what we just went through this year. But he has to be a guy that you have to get something out of next year. Hopefully he's 100% healthy next year.
Absolutely. Did I add AJ back in? I didn't. All right, hold on. Let me see. All right, here we go. So yeah,
we ain't seen AJ in weeks. God damn.
No bullshit, man. AJ been on the move, bruh. Okay, so for me, I don't have too much, man. I would just say I appreciate his competitive nature, and I can understand from a standpoint of me, and I mean, injuries in all regards, because I know I'm not speaking on the pro level, right? But just injuries in all regards, when you deal with something like that. I had a season where I've been around my teammates the entire year, but I missed every game but the first year. I mean, every game but the first game because of the fact that, I was dealing with Crohn's disease. Like, this was the beginning of me figuring out that I had Crohn's disease. I missed the whole season, and I was still there with these guys, and it was frustrating me. Knowing the athlete that I was, but also knowing the competitor that I was, it's like it just hurts. So I don't have much to say about the skill set. I don't have much to say about what will happen because all we know is that he wasn't healthy when he was here. So I can understand him from that side, understand the mental aspect, what he's going through. But I'll leave it at that. I won't talk about any player potential that he can bring to this team because we have a long time to go until that comes to fruition.
I don't mind talking about it. Because I think we already seen it. We seen what Curtis Samuel does under Scott Turner, Ron Rivera regime, and it wasn't appealing. That's why Carolina even went and signed Robbie Anderson to be their number 2. Curtis Samuel best years came under Matt. Not best years, but his best year in the league came under Matt Rule and that offense. He's not really a number 2. There's nothing Curtis Samuel really does good in his game. He's converted running back to wide receiver. He's fast. He's shifty. But can any of us that watch this game say anything positive about what he does? Like, I don't really know him as being a pass catcher. Like, I know him kind of being like almost used as a scat back, and maybe you could use him in these screenplays, but they really don't have a number 2. I know we're not going to really go in depth like what would we do if we were managing this team going forward. But for me, I'm going to get another wide receiver, bro. Like, if it means I got paid them 14, 15, 16 million, whatever the case is, I'm going to give me a number 2 or someone close, damn near close to a number 1, Calvin Ridley. Unfortunately, one of the kids that I wanted them to draft, possibly if they stayed there at 11, Jamison Williams, former Ohio State and Bama wide receiver. He tore his ACL last night. I'm going to get a Mike Williams from Chargers, something, bro. I'm not relying on Curtis Samuels. because at the end of the day, they knew about his injury. They downplayed it, never really told that man to go get surgery again or whatever the case is. You can't depend on that man going forward. You're going to need a number 2 wide receiver.
So, two things. One related to what you had mentioned. For those who are listening, because I know we got some new viewers and those who are still here. Off-season schedule next Thursday, or this Thursday. I said next Thursday. This upcoming Thursday, we'll be talking about season in review, but also what AJ mentioned, what we'll be doing to improve this team. Major steps that we'll be taking to improve this team, just to keep you all informed about our offseason plan upcoming. But second thing, I don't know. First off, DMV fan, appreciate you for the resubscription, and then Chuck, appreciate the follow on Twitch. So with Curtis, I think it's controversial, man. I don't know if we can say that he doesn't do anything, because he's had in Carolina, I don't know if you can say that he doesn't do anything down the field. His last season clearly was his best season with Carolina, and that's kind of what got him the money, besides the fact that, the staff knew him. But at the same time, I can't draw absolutes on a player who just didn't play here. And I'll leave it at that, but I just think that for me, it's hard to draw that conclusion. But at the same time, what I will acknowledge, AJ, to your point, is that we didn't see that man get any targets down the field. We didn't see that man see any targets beyond 5 yards, to be honest with you. And I don't know if that was an indictment on either Scott Turner or Curtis Samuel, or the fact that they didn't want him exercising, or not exercising, but they don't want him straining himself because he was dealing with injuries, lower body injuries, the entire season. I don't know, but I think that because of that ambiguity, it leaves us questioning how good Curtis Samuel is. But I do agree 100%. These guys need a wide receiver, a number 2 guy or a number 1 guy to offset Terry McLaurin. I do agree with that wholeheartedly. Excuse me.
Yeah, but also, to AJ's point, I thought Curtis Samuel started coming into his own in 2019, the year when Ron Rivera got fired. I think he actually had better numbers overall that year. But whereas Matt Rule and them did use him a little different, they used him out of the backfield a lot more. But I think he's a weapon. When he's healthy, he's a weapon. I don't know, if he's more of a downfield guy. I think he's just a guy you want the ball in his hands, kind of like J.D. McKissick. I look at him like as a J.D. McKissick type of guy, and I don't think you can have enough J.D. McKissick guys on the field. But I agree with everybody, and like I've been saying, I would still definitely go after a wide receiver, whether it's in the draft or free agency. However you're going to do it, I still think you need another guy there.
All right. So William Jackson. All right. So I did say I was going to move to Chase Young first. This is going to be quick. Chase Young, because I pick up a pattern. I picked up this pattern a long time ago when Chase Young speaks. And personally, fellas, the way Chase Young talks, I know, and I think we all know, how he talks, and Chase Young isn't necessarily a person who's stingy with the media. I just don't know if he really understands how to communicate with the media, and that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But the reason why I bring this up is because the comments that I'm about to tell the people and tell you all is something similar to what we've been seeing since he's gotten here. It's a lot of nothing but just putting something out there. What's the word? General comments, general observations, or general responses, and I'll get to them right now. When Chase Young talked about his injury, or I guess this season, he said I feel like I face bigger tests off the field. Trust me, I know that my knee can get back to 110%. As long as I get back to 110%, then that's the only thing I care about. and that was a question. I wish I had the actual question that was asked, but that was a comment obviously related to his 2020 season, and obviously the injury that he's dealing with. But then the second thing that he said, Chase Young said that he didn't want to provide any specifics about his timeline for recovery or his offseason plans, including OTAs. But his quote regarding OTAs, given that Ron Rivera said that he feels it's important for him to be in the building with the team, we're still talking about it, figuring everything out for it. So I'm not sure right now. And I bring back to what I initially said about Chase Young. It's not necessarily a bad thing that he's saying these things, but I also don't know if he's helping himself out or if he's even helping his coaches out by inadvertently not having their back in the pressers or in the media, because he's just doing his own thing. I don't think he's really aware of how he's speaking. I'm gonna hand it to you all if you have anything to say, or we can move to William Jackson. But that's kind of how I feel. I don't think that Chase Young is doing anything purposefully. I just think that he just doesn't really know how to talk to the media yet.
I mean, I think he's been coached to talk to the media in that way, because the couple times he has been authentically him, it's backfired on him, you know? So in his regard, he ain't going to say too much. He's not going to tell you too much information because he don't want it to get used against him. And, you know, honestly, he's a franchise player at this moment. Like, he is Washington football team when you think of the team, no matter how much the fans might like Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, but Chase Young is the first person you think of when you hear Washington football team. And, he doesn't trust the media right now. I don't think no one has truly built a rapport with him on that level. I expect him really probably not to be with the team once again for OTAs. I think that man want to be in LA, enjoying the weather, the lavish lifestyle, and the luxuries that comes with, you know, being a top guy in the NFL, as far as being a number 2 overall pick. I don't think you want to be here at the crib. Can you imagine you get drafted at the crib and you from the crib, then you get drafted by the team at the crib? You need a break from home. You feel me? From your family, all the people that you know, everything.
Random
you
shout out
need
to
that
Kevin
break.
Durant who didn't take the Wizards serious when he was a free agent.
So I mean, it's just like you want that break from the crib. So I can't picture him being here. I just hope that, you know, this offseason that he gets with a pass rushing guru. And that's not to say whoever he has been working with isn't sufficient enough, but he definitely could use more counter moves. Yeah, like there's a guy by the name of Brandon Jordan who's been working with Max Crosby, Kwity Paye, a bunch of guys in the league that are pass rushers just like Chase Young, working on hand movement, motor skills, like footwork, all those things. I think he just needs to come up with some new counter moves. But yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's a big deal right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess for me, as far as how Chase Young is dealing with the media, I mean, I believe this is the first time he's probably dealt with adversity ever in his career. I mean, you know, every year of Chase Young's career, he's always been touted as this guy that's with so much potential, or he's doing great things, you know, all the way back to high school, Ohio State. He's always been a guy that's been, you know, highly touted. Even last year, Rookie of the Year, you know, and everyone goes into the next year, you're talking about how great Chase Young is. So the media treats you a little differently when you're talked up in the highlight or when you're looked at in the highlight. But then you come out this season where he doesn't have, you know, the season that he expected to have, and then you get injured. Now everybody's kind of looking at you a lot differently than they've looked at you the last few years. It's a "what have you done for me lately" league. So the media now is in turn starting to write things about Chase Young. You got snide comments by fans and media alike just going at Chase Young, and then he's seeing this stuff. He sees it, and so it's like, now how do I deal with it? Now I'm not going to give you what I used to give you, and you're not going to get such of the fun-loving, you know, guy that's going to give you so much in the media whenever you ask me things. But as far as OTAs go, I don't. It's a double-edged sword for me, because I normally don't care who shows up to OTAs and whatnot, because it's always voluntary. But for Chase Young's sake, and just because everyone else in the team showed up this past year to OTAs except him, I didn't care about it last year. But then he went out and didn't have the season he expected to have this season. And I don't even know if physically he's going to be ready to, like, you know, do any kind of physical activities in OTAs. But as we know, OTAs, you have a lot of classroom work and a lot of virtual things as well. Now, I hope he is able to, you know, sit in on some of that stuff because he probably needs it, especially after the year he had. You know, he has a lot to prove again. I mean, you know, rookie of the year, he had a rookie of the year thing, but he still hasn't reached the level in the NFL that he wants to reach. Like Chase Young wants to be talked about like Khalil Mack, or that's the type of talent you expected to get when you drafted a Chase Young. So now he has a lot to prove and he has a lot on his plate, and I think it would be a good look for him to at least attend some of these OTAs.
I think what probably might help with his decision is who the team acquires at quarterback. If they go get a young guy like a Deshaun Watson, who you know his potential, I think everybody buys in even more. I mean, a lot of guys on this roster have every reason to be at OTAs because they have incentives that are getting paid to them. They're not there because they really want to be there, and it's for the team's sake. It's just a lot of their money that they could use is being, you know, tied in participation. So, I mean, I guess we'll see how it all plays out. At the end of the day, I don't think any player should ever be crucified for OTAs, whether the percentage of guys being in attendance is 99% or 40%. Is like that's your time to do what you want to do. Plenty of guys that I've worked with over the years never went to OTAs, and some of them are being considered for the Hall of Fame, and they miss out on a shit ton of money not participating in OTAs. You're talking about $700,000 that they didn't get just because they didn't participate in OTAs. So it just really depends on, you know, what's going on and the structure in place.
Well, I will ask this, AJ, for you. And you make a great point, and I definitely agree. Like I said, normally I don't care. But when you're the team captain, do you think it's a good look to never show up for the OTAs? Because a lot of people look up to you when you're a team captain.
I mean, that's a bit tough. When you are the team captain, you probably should show face, maybe for at least 1 week or a week and a half. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it's a different day and age for a lot of these guys, especially the younger guys. If you cool with your crew, especially your D-line group, and you communicate with them, most of these guys have group chats or whatever, and they don't see a problem. Like they get it. Like I said, a lot of these guys are there because they're getting $100,000 bonus for participating in OTAs at a certain clip or whatever. So, I mean, yeah, you probably want your leader there, but at the end of the day, it don't make or break the season. Especially if you play DN. If you're a quarterback, yeah, then it's kind of a different conversation. But we've even seen that where, you know, what we got Aaron Rodgers who missed the whole offseason program pretty much, but he might win the damn MVP.
So there's one thing that I understand, AJ. There's just one thing that's driving me right now, because I didn't really think too much about it until Dre brought it up. I don't know if your captain is giving you 1.5 sacks in 10 weeks. I just think there's something there. I don't know what he did this offseason to really, like, because we got to take into account a lot of things, right? And obviously this conversation tonight is going to be dealing with, and we're going to be transitioning to Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew real soon. But when you talk about a player who clearly underperformed, and people can throw those pressure numbers out there for the whole defensive line. At the end of the day, you only had 38 sacks. If we had I brought up the offseason predictions where we started our season total numbers, and we did our over-under predictions with Candy, and I'm forgetting the other name. But when we talk about those predictions, and we have the total number set for the team sacks at 52, and people said that number was too low, and you only have 38 sacks as a team, and your team captain had 1.5 sacks in 10 weeks. I don't want to exacerbate the issue, but I do want to emphasize the point that Chase Young was a guy, whether all season activities mattered or not, Like that's one thing. But if you're not showing face when the rest of your team is, man, how can you really call yourself a captain? How can you call yourself a leader if you're not showing up in the moments that the rest of the team is? And I think that just kind of shows a bigger picture. Not that you aren't one of the best players on the team, but that you may not be the leader that people have pinned you as. And we may have to reevaluate that. That's kind of where I'm at. It's just hard for me to kind of really separate the two. Like, it all has to go hand in hand, and leaders lead. And obviously, this year is going to be different because he's dealing with an ACL injury, right? But my man, like, you got something to show when you get back on the field, bro.
You open the door. So, that's why I say normally I typically don't care about OTAs. I don't care who shows up or whatnot, but you open the door for that criticism when you don't perform up to the level people expect you to perform. And they look back at stuff like that and they're going to say things. And especially if you still kind of non-committal on it going forward, it's going to be a thing that just adds to the criticism.
All right. So catching up on the comments right quick before we move over to Ron and Martin. Merle mentioned that he can get, when we talked about the O-line, he can get James Daniels or AJ Cann or Will Hernandez if he's talking about replacements for Brandon Sheriff. DMV fan mentioned that he's definitely bringing in another receiver in here if he was the front office. Chuck mentioned, what's going on, Chuck? Once again, Chuck mentioned Mike Williams. That's his guy. Alexander mentioned Curtis Samuel only played 84 snaps on the season, which was 7% of the total snaps for the 2021 year. And DMV mentioned, hey, bro, Dakota, sit down, bro. Sit down. Ain't no way you just did that. Alex mentioned Chase Young is aloof. He's been like that since high school. Aloof is a really strong word. I need to Google that. And then lastly, James Caroline.
Man, people out of pocket. How you say Chase Young is aloof? This man was a number 2 pick overall in the draft. Like, if you wasn't busting your ass, you wouldn't even get to that level. People,
I'm about to Google. I think he's talking about his media, how he speaks in the media. That's all.
Well, more distant. He's saying Chase is a little distant when it comes to the media, which I can see. Yeah,
not friendly or forthcoming. Okay, yeah. Or seemingly uninvolved or uninterested. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't see that, but all right.
Okay.
I mean, all right, but here,
yep.
Let me just chime on that real quick, bro. Like, a lot of people don't understand. Like, no discredit to people that work the beat for Washington, but a lot of them can't relate to these players at all. Like, there's nobody really in those rooms that look like us. Like, I mean, there's Lake, there's Darren Haynes, and what's the young lady's name?
Oh, Rhiannon Walker.
Yeah, but outside of that, ain't really nobody that asks the questions on a daily, and especially with everything being virtual, that have a rapport with these guys. They don't listen to the same music. They don't do anything remotely close to what these guys do. So it's kind of hard to let your hair down and be loose with some of these reporters because, like, you're also thinking, like, damn, if I even say the wrong fucking thing here, like, this shit's going to blow up to a whole nother level. Like, can you imagine being in that position? Like, you want to be carefree and let your hair down and relax, but in actuality, everything that you say could be misconstrued. So, I mean, I'm hoping.
I feel you.
I'm hoping while we have this podcast, like, I'll be able to get Chase to come on here, let his hair down, and really, like, open up and even possibly engage more with the fan base. Like, because, I mean, at the end of the day, there's not many people that look like us that are in those rooms and getting the opportunity to ask these questions to these players on a weekly aspect.
And to AJ's point too, AJ's right. And especially if he was to come on a podcast like with us, we PG County dudes. He PG County dudes, so we can relate to Chase from that aspect too, not just from being brothers, but just from being in an area.
I agree. I'm gonna go ahead and clip this. You know what I'm saying? Send it to him, let him know we serious about this shit. see where that goes. But listen, let's go ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, there was a ton of other quotes that we could have got to, but we got to get to the meat of the bone of this show, and that's Martin Mayhew and Ron Rivera. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen for those who are watching live. obviously the podcast side of things, you'll be hearing me read all verbatim what they're saying. But I'll go ahead and share the quotes for everybody right now. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead. Where is it at? Boom. Share. Make sure that we're good. Let me go ahead and change the where is it? Face.
That boy got up the 5 links presentation.
I had to make sure this thing was good for all of us. You know what I'm saying? All right. So listen. Here we go. I got the things in green that we can kind of go through. Obviously, Martin Mayhew, for those who don't know, is the general manager along with a few other people. Martin Mayhew did mention him, Marty Herney, Chris Polian, I believe, and some other people. But we'll go ahead and go through these things verbatim. So the first comment, obviously, is going to be dealing with the quarterback situation. And it was asked on evaluating quarterbacks. Ron Rivera mentioned that, actually, let me do this one thing. 125. Do this 150. What does that look like? Okay. Well, I think first you start with your own evaluations and you go from there. We talked about some things today. In fact, we had a very good meeting earlier, and I think one of the things we talked about again was the 4 options we have on the roster. The 4 options first off, sometimes I just want to mention, I'm sorry. The people who put up these transcripts, I know you may be an intern or something, but please just do better. But one of the 4 options we have is on the roster, free agency, draft, and potential trades. You got to look at all avenues. Then you kind of predict and look at the ones that intrigue you and go from there. So for me, fellas, I'll kick this one off. I think one of the key words that he mentioned in this quote alone is predict. And that word itself, predict, kind of tells you what the outcome is and what's the most likely outcome that you have for your team. And we'll go into some options because you can never say never with anything, right? But predict kind of tells me they're going to look at all avenues and realize that the top of the line guys, top tier guys, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, et cetera, all these guys, I don't think they're going to be around or even available for Washington to even look into. Deshaun Watson, possibly. Russell Wilson, I think he may mess around and stay in Seattle as the season went along. I think that may be the case. I think the same thing is going to be the case for Aaron Rodgers. If we're looking at other guys, Derek Carr, I never really entertained it for performance reasons, but also for what he wants out of the Las Vegas Raiders, right? But predict is kind of the key word for me in this quote. I don't think that we're looking at any trade options. Free agency is terrible. I mean, you're looking at Mitchell Trubisky here. Like, that's your best option in free agency. So clearly you're going to draft a guy as well if you go that route in free agency. So I'm going to hand this to you all. You have any thoughts on the first comment in terms of quarterback and evaluating the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I think in regards to this quote, I mean, I know there's something further down the line because I actually listened to a part of the presser that's even more telling than this comment in regards to quarterback. I don't see them drafting a guy. I think Ron knows that he has to show improve this year or he's out of here. Like, he know what the deal is. Like, shit, if it was me running the team, he would have got Joe Judge today. You feel me? Because I just don't I don't believe in his personnel decisions at all. And even listening to that presser just confused me even more just strictly as a fan, like the fact of like the Jamin Davis comments. But I think they have to go very strong at a veteran quarterback. No time to play games. We know that they went after Stafford last year. Let's see what happens with Watson. I think it would be perfect if, just like they did a couple years ago where they agreed to the framework of a trade to get Alex Smith, if they did the same thing either on the day of 2/2/22 or a couple of days before, I think it'd be great for this franchise to go into their new name, branding, and marketing element, and the fans know that they have a new quarterback in hand, which could be Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. That's kind of like up in the air. I think that probably boils down to what happens to Devontae Adams, and where the Packers end up. Yeah, and where the Packers end up, when the season comes to end, if they're playing for the chip or if they get knocked out again. Russell Wilson, I can see him definitely leaving Seattle. I feel like a lot of people think that he wants to stay there, but there's really no assets for him to stay there. They don't have a good enough defense. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have a lot of pieces that he can utilize to get to the next level once again. And ultimately, he wants to win. Deshaun Watson is key player here. You know, the coach that really wanted to bring him into Miami is now no longer a head coach. If Flores ends up getting a job in Chicago, they already got their quarterback in Justin Fields. I guess that's something to watch. But I think Deshaun Watson is their best bet of bringing in a quarterback. And it may not be a good PR look for some people, but at the end of the day, if you're not found guilty, man, ain't shit you can really do about it. Didn't we just honor Ben Roethlisberger last week, and he had one or two rape potential cases? 2.
So listen, that's where I was going to get to. So I was going to ask you all the tough question about D-Watt, and I don't think anybody. I'm gonna just be honest. I don't think anybody else is going to ask this question. I don't think anybody else is going to ask this question from the media or podcast groups. They only look at the potential negatives. I'm just ask y'all flat out. From a football perspective, we're not talking about morality, right? From a football perspective, do y'all care about any off-season shit or off-the-field shit that Deshaun Watson would have going on if it meant it could make your team better? Do you all care?
If he could play football, no. I mean, like if the NFL looks at it and say, hey, this guy can go ahead and out there and he can play football, we're not suspending him, then you have to do what you gotta have to do as a franchise to say, hey, we want to win at all costs. Yes, we'll bring that guy in, because if you don't, someone else will. So why not be that team?
Yeah, and I mean, I agree with Dre. I agree with Dre as well on that. And I mean, even if the NFL says we're gonna suspend him 4 to 6 games, shit, I'm cool with it. Like at the end of the day, what Deshaun is probably like 25, 26 years old. Like, you literally have your quarterback for the next 10 plus years. Like, this franchise has not had a marquee quarterback in God knows when. I mean, the closest thing was RG3, and that was for 1 year. But Deshaun Watson is a proven quarterback. He did sit out for the year, so he ain't take no hits. He's fresh. He's still young as hell, like I said. I mean, there are a couple flaws in Deshaun's game where he might hold on to the ball too long at times, but still, he's an elite quarterback. He's a top 10 quarterback in this league, and he still has youth on his side. He's not even in his prime yet. And if you add him in the mix with Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, and possibly other weapons, it just bringing Deshaun Watson in alone makes your team more attractive as a free agent. From all aspects, both sides of the ball. Yeah. Like, even on the defensive side, like, guys ain't gonna get to play with Deshaun Watson on offense, but they still want to be around that type of energy. He's been known as a good person. A lot of people rock with him off the field. But now you might be able to get some solid wide receivers in here, or maybe you might be able to force guys that ask for trades to come in here, like a Calvin Ridley. Of course, we know that he took off for the year because of personal issues, but I even tweeted about it the other day. Calvin Ridley is the closest thing to Amari Cooper that might be available wide receiver-wise, and that's who Washington went after heavy. Like, Ron Rivera wants those type of guys that can run them crisp-ass routes. So if you get a quarterback like a D-Watt, it's a game changer for your whole franchise. And even though you got the off-the-field allegations, you can market the hell out of him. He's a favorable guy within the league before any of these allegations came about.
So, 2 things to catch up on. Alex mentioned that the good man Kevin Sheehan said that his sources. First off, I would have to listen. So, and that's no disrespect to you, Alex. I'm giving you some love for your comment. but I would have to listen to see where that was at. But he said that his sources had told him it's going to be Trubisky, Heineke, and a rookie quarterback for next year. Merle with the timely troll mentioned Kirk Cousins is returning to Washington. And then obviously Alex finished up just mentioning that Kime mentioned Watson will not waive his no trade clause for Washington. However, Alex, that last part about his no trade clause, that was a reality before Flores got fired in Miami. So things change as information moves along. So that is true. He said that he won't waive his trade clause.
He said that a couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, he said that like a week or two ago before the final week of the season. So that was very recent. However, again, like we know Flores was the reason why Watson wanted to go to Miami. So I think things changed now a little bit. We don't know how much, but things changed a little bit now that Flores is no longer in Miami. Who knows how Watson is feeling? He may open his options up. Who knows if Washington is in those options that he opens, but at the same time, that was the case like 2 weeks ago, but things may change now that Flores is not now. So.
I mean, even from Watson's standpoint, he doesn't really have many choices.
That's what
if we're gonna be quite frank, like.
So how are we gonna be able to compete with other teams who has that draft capital?
I mean, I don't even think it's about the capital per se. I just don't. I don't think there's many teams out there who could really like go after him that heavy.
The Eagles.
I don't think the Eagles getting rid of Jalen Hurts though. I think they're fine with him.
They're not going to do that.
Technically speaking, they have the capital is where I was going. If they wanted to upgrade, like an obvious upgrade, yeah, it would be the Eagles. It would be the Dolphins, obviously. Still,
the Broncos.
The Broncos have a roster. I don't know about their draft capital. I really don't know what they're looking at. And then the Giants. The Giants have 2 first-round picks. So yeah, I mean, we're fighting a losing battle if we're talking about those two to three teams. Maybe the Broncos.
I think it really just. I think nobody really knows on this Deshaun Watson thing. I think it's just one of those wait and see. Like the dude sat out a whole year of football, not one snap. I don't really think beggars can be choosers in that sense. So for me, I don't think anyone can X out anything because a lot of things can change. I mean, the one maybe thing a lot of people probably didn't point to, David Mulugeta, who is Deshaun Watson's agent, also represents
David
Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins' former agent.
He's Dwayne Haskins' former agent. So maybe, having insight into Ron Rivera and how the franchise handled Dwayne, even though Dwayne isn't with him anymore. But like maybe that could be somewhat of a reason. But I haven't heard of like anything where it's like he's opposed to anything at this point of the year. Like maybe he was opposed to certain things earlier in the process, but the Texans didn't even move him. At the same token, the deal still has to make sense for the Texans. Even though he might want to go somewhere for sure, it still got to make sense for the team. So if Washington comes correct with the best offer and, it's something that they can get on, Deshaun's radar, I think it happens. It's just nobody really knows. But I think the big domino is, if you are hoping to get Deshaun Watson to Washington, just pray that Brian Flores gets hired as the Chicago Bears head coach because they already got their quarterback.
Yeah.
And David represents Justin Fields as well. So
the Panthers too, Alex. Yeah, good point. Good point. The Panthers. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the roster. Well, actually, we talked enough about the quarterback, at least for today. He said a lot. But we'll move over to potential staff changes. This will be brief, as you can see. On potential staff changes, he was very short, Ron Rivera was. And as you all can see from these quotes, all these quotes that we went through, Ron is not a short guy. And he's given 10-minute responses before. So he said, it's something I'm not going to talk about. I'm talk about staffing changes. Only thing I can say here, fellas, is that we'll be seeing some firings. I don't know where they're going to be. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know what positions. I don't know what coordinator spots. But I think we'll be seeing some changes after this year. Because Ron is never short like this. But also, Ron is never one where he just completely dodges it and things like that. So for me, I think we'll be seeing something. If I had to give a guess, just for the sake of this conversation right now, I'm looking at either defensive line. Actually, I'm only looking at defensive line. It'll be that or maybe somewhere in the front seven, but on the defensive side of the football. But I'm looking at defensive line, and I forgot his name. That sucks. But guy on the defensive line. I don't know if you all have any comments on staffing changes. Sam Mills a third. There we go. Sam Mills a third.
But no, I mean that comment to me sounded like he's a guy that maybe making some change. I don't, like you said, I don't know where within the staff they're going to make the changes, but if he was a guy who saw everyone on the staff coming back, I think he would say, yeah, I think we're everyone's coming back. I'm confident in the guys I have. But that was a non-committal answer he gave. And to me, it sounds like we probably can expect a couple of changes within the next couple of weeks to the staff. I don't know where, but again, it didn't sound committal to the guys he has on the staff, like all of them.
Percent chance that it's Jack Del Rio. Percent chance right now.
Man, there's no way in hell the two main people such as Scott Turner, the OC, and Jack Del Rio, the DC, are going to get fired. The only way something changes, the only change that could possibly happen, maybe someone else wants to hire Scott Turner as OC, but I don't see it being big changes. Maybe you might change the linebacker coach, or I mean, those are minute things in my opinion. The main thing is the people calling the plays, like because at the end of the day, a lot of fans are like, get rid of Sam Mills. How the fuck you know what Sam Mills does during the week? Like,
I just know
it's not really gonna show during. It's not gonna show during the games. Like, you don't know what he's doing. Like, you have no clue. Nobody knows how Sam Mills is as a D-line coach. Nobody knows that. Like, unless you know somebody on the team or whatever, you could talk to them. That's different. But like, there's no way you could tell that this D-line coach sucks.
Well, AJ, to your point, there was. Now I don't know, but I heard a couple of the radio guys saying that they knew some people that said, like, guys like Matt Ioannidis didn't care much for Mills last year. They didn't care much for the new defensive line coaches or whatnot. So I mean that could be where a lot of that noise is coming from.
Yeah, that's where the basis I'm coming from. Just understanding what was going on over the past year, and for that same unit who didn't really like him or didn't really mesh with him or understand him in 2020, for them to have the same issues that they had in 2021, or excuse me, not the same. I won't say it's the same because I can't identify what the issue was today, like, or this year per se. Like, I couldn't identify the specific issue, but I do understand from Ron Rivera, and we do this coaches thing every single week, fellas. When Ron Rivera talks about players playing selfish or players specifically on the defensive line playing not responsible for their own assignments, but freelancing and trying to make a play versus doing their own job. Who knows to what degree that really revolves around the position coach as well. Like, are they listening to the position coach? Are they trying to adhere to what they're being coached by that position coach and the defensive coordinator? Who knows? And that's kind of where I'm getting at. Personally, I did get it from them, from what was going on over the past year. And hearing the Matt Ioannidis story kind of ties things together, where I think that if there's somebody who's in trouble, it may be Mills. Merle did say the receiver coach. He mentioned that, and I wish I had his name right here on the top of my head, but I don't. But the receiver coach, Drew Terrell. Drew Terrell. Yeah. So he mentioned the receiver coach. So that's kind of where I am. If y'all have anything to that, we can move forward to the next quote. But that's where my basis came from.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like from what Dave told me. Like the couple guys I know on D-line, they don't speak, low of Mills. Same way guys I know in the secondary don't speak low of Chris Harris. They enjoy him. So you just never know. Everybody's interaction is going to be different with a person. But I mean, my main thing, I want to see the OC and the DC change, man, because there's no way that you can be bottom of both both rankings on the offense and defensive side of the ball. And you just say, well, fuck it, I'm loyal to them. I'm gonna bring them back again. Like, what's about to change, bro? Like, what's really about to change. So it's like you need that new type of energy, and I hope Ron understands. Like, hey man, if you don't show out this year, you're done. You're done forever. Not even just in Washington. You will never get another head coaching job in the NFL.
Well, I mean, I get the Jack Del Rio slander because, like you said, we've been talking about it all year. That the defense is, that was supposed to be the strength of your team, and that unit has a lot of talent on that side of the football, and you finished damn near last in the league. But offensively, they actually improved statistically this year. Last year, I think they were closer to the bottom of the league. They may have been like bottom 5 last year. But this year, I think they moved up about 10 or so spots offensively. And this is without
a Dre,
quarterback.
Where they were ranked last year, the only way to go was up. So,
but AJ, this is what a quarterback that you said can't do it in the league.
So 21st this year and 30th last year in yards.
Yeah. So I mean, not nice.
But that's the point. The point is the offense actually improved with a quarterback that you don't think can do it in this league. So if he had, an NFL, and I guess if you say an average NFL talent starter in the league, what does his offense look like now? But we don't know.
So
we haven't seen
did they stats improve because of better play calling, or they were getting their ass whipped and it was garbage yards?
No, it wasn't a lot of garbage yards. No.
I'm saying it wasn't a lot of garbage yards.
Yeah.
And to be fair, too, I'll let you go, Dre. But to be fair, when we were getting our ass whooped, the games we were getting our ass whooped, we still wasn't moving the ball.
Yeah, right.
We wasn't moving the ball. We was getting our ass whooped and wasn't doing shit, bro. We wasn't doing shit. So everything we earned.
And that's the thing. If you go through the quarterbacks in the last 2 years that Scott Turner has to work with, it was a Dwayne Haskins, a guy who's third string in Pittsburgh right now, one-legged Alex Smith, Kyle Allen, a guy who's never been looked at as an NFL caliber starter, and Taylor Heineke, a guy who a lot of people can pretty much concede that he's better served as a backup in this league. So you haven't given Scott Turner one NFL offensive starter quarterback caliber guy in the league yet to start his Washington tenure. Now, like I said, that's not to say Scott Turner may be good, or I don't know if he's good. I really don't know if he's a really good play caller or not. We just haven't seen him with the personnel to say, oh, he's underachieving. Like, we can't say Scott Turner's underachieving because we haven't given him, the type of personnel you want to see a top offense have.
All right. Let's see, because there's a few things. There was a ton of quotes. Oh, just to clean up on the Deshaun Watson is right here, and we can move forward. We don't have to really evaluate this one. But on Deshaun Watson, he mentioned that we can't talk about players on other rosters, just to be fair. We're exploring all avenues. And for those who think that means anything in terms of him keeping it short with Deshaun, he's done this all season long. He's done this even before the trade deadline, if you all remember. Deshaun Watson was a target at that point, or a topic, and he doesn't speak publicly about players that's on other rosters. So that's kind of where he is with that one. Take this as absolutely nothing, and just keep it pushing from there. All right, so I think there was one thing that I really wanted to talk about personally, because I think it's a good point, but I also understand what he's doing, right? And this is kind of, I think it's important to be transparent. So on his message to the team yesterday, and this is kind of what he responded with, he said it was really about going forward. Once February 2nd comes around and everybody knows what happens on February 2nd, obviously the new name, is what we're most certainly looking forward to. I don't want to get pulled backwards. This is a chance for us. This is a chance for us to step beyond the shadow of what we've had to deal with and really start fresh, start new. It'll be an opportunity. We obviously are changing our name. We're obviously going to have our name out there, but what we're also doing is new uniforms, which is pretty cool. I think you guys are going to appreciate them, blah, blah, blah. I think the fans appreciate them. I think it's important to me, and it's really to me an opportunity. It's been difficult, but at the same time, it's an opportunity to go forward, and that's what I want. I want us to be able to step in a new light and create a new opportunity for our guys as a football team going forward. The reason why I highlighted this one, fellas, we all know what we've been saying about Ron and the team throughout the 2021 season, man, and it's been rough. And I understand, me of all people, and obviously AJ knows too, the accountability aspect it's important to hold these coaches accountable for the things that they do. And Jerry, not to exclude you, but AJ has been very loud. So that's kind of why I bring him up. But just understanding the accountability side of, these coaches. However, the reason why I highlighted it again is understanding that while this is an attempt to change the narrative in the public eye, tell these people to drop everything that you saw in 2020 and 2021, and obviously the years prior to Ron Rivera, it's important to understand that year 3 is a big year for him. Year 3 is a big year for 2022 is a big year for the franchise for the obvious reasons. But this is just something where this guy is trying to eliminate all of the negativity that has surrounded this team from a on the field standpoint, off the field standpoint, obviously as well, but also try to get the heat off his back too, just from a public perspective. And like I said, I see it clear as day. This quote is benign, but it's also something like optimistic and positive. But just remember that he is trying to set the tone for the new look of the team. And I think that's important for everybody who still has emotions for the team, but also invested with the team. And then lastly, who has these negative sentiments that things will never get better. And I understand what he's doing here. I just feel like this is important for him to say, but it's also like, if you're smart enough, or if you are not too warped in or emotional, you kind of understand what he's doing. So it's just keeping an eye out. It's an important comment, I felt like, for me. So I'll hand it to you all if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I mean, he's right. I mean, this is the opportunity, and like you said, he's also mentioned a couple more things too that I saw, kind of in relation to that, and that he feels like he doesn't have, this area doesn't have a lot of patience. I mean, he's used to dealing with the Carolina media.
Let's go ahead and go down
and he's used to dealing with that, where they probably gave him a little bit more of a leash. Whereas here, you don't really get that that luxury. You don't get the luxury to have the leash of, just kind of lollygagging until you find your way as a team. So, but he has to keep the guys that he has right now under his wing. He has to keep them engaged, and he has to show them that, we're going somewhere. We believe in me. Look at my vision. So it's important for him to kind of get that message out there, but it's also important for him to show them too. Like, he can't just talk about it. He has to show them. And, it's cool that they're getting the new uniforms and, the new name and everything, but you don't want to come out there and start doing the same old bullshit with this. If this is a fresh start, you want to start giving the fans and the players alike a fresh outlook on things, and just a fresh team that actually shows that they can contend, not just compete, but you want to start contending.
Yeah, I mean, of course, this area is not going to have the patience with you. I mean, you were at a franchise in Carolina that's only been around for 27 years in NFL history. You damn right. Like, they ain't got no choice but to be patient in that regard. Like, the Panthers been to a Super Bowl in the recent years. Washington hasn't. Like, Washington hasn't even really consecutively been in the playoffs. So, yeah, the fan base is a bit antsy when other teams are improving. You're seeing teams like even the Bengals getting back into, the playoffs and have a young corp of players that are stars, like the Joe Barrows, the Jamar Chase, or you're seeing the Eagles, turn things around and make it to the playoffs. You're seeing the Arizona Cardinals, even with a half-ass head coach, they're still, progressing through those things. They have their quarterback. You're seeing a lot of teams make moves and progressing towards a different light. Whereas, like, with Washington, they kind of resemble the Jay Gruden era, Like, the only major difference is they got Chase Young. All the same guys are still here pretty much. Like, you're still bringing in guys and misusing them. We ain't even really touched on the Jamin Davis shit too much yet. I don't know if we are, but you draft
we'll close out on it.
Okay, yeah, but you drafted the guy 19th overall, and then January 11th, 2022, he said, "Oh yeah, I think he's best to play outside linebacker." No shit. So it's like you can't really buy into everything that he's saying. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all a bunch of talk until you do something with it. Like him saying that he's comfortable with the talent on the roster is not true, because these guys aren't contributing and they're not playing the way that they should in the scheme, whatever the case is. So, I mean, it's hard to really buy into Ron Rivera. Like I said, I watched a lot of the presser. Martin Mayhew barely spoke.
Right.
Like,
and if he did, he just agreed with Ron.
He didn't provide any real input. I have no insight on what he's thinking of. Like I said, it's the Ron Rivera show. Whether it be the coaching staff or the personnel, it's nobody that's really going to object to what he's doing. And he's moved all those type of people out the building. And, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens during this offseason.
All right. So I'm going to go through this quote, and then we'll just go to Jamin Davis. So I'll just read this for the listeners and the viewers. Obviously, if you all haven't heard what he said with Carolina, he mentioned on what he's doing differently here than what he was in Carolina, and it goes as follows. Well, one of the really good things that I really do appreciate in being able to do is the kind of personnel department, the way we've structured it now. I really do appreciate that. It's a collaborative effort, and as I said earlier, one thing that I really thought worked well for us was really just the way these guys at the table. It's different from my initial experience. Pretty much a lot what we've done is pretty similar to, and the biggest difference obviously is not having the clear-cut franchise quarterback yet. The one thing that we have done, though, is a lot of pieces in place. Marty Herney, Martin Mayhew, Eric Stokes, and myself, we've all met and kind of went through the personnel initially. We feel like the biggest needs to kind of put them on notice is these all-star games, because they'll be breaking pretty soon and they'll be heading to all-star games, obviously. So they'll start the evaluation process and give us a heads up, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of where he is in terms of things that are different. Essentially, his takeaway is just that it's a collaborative effort. Obviously, he didn't really see that in Carolina. He mentioned that prior to coming here. I mean, we learned that as he got on board is that he really didn't have that personnel say like he wanted to in Carolina. And he's having that opportunity here in Washington. So we'll close out the quotes with Jamin Davis, and reminder to everybody who is still watching, obviously that will be listening. We can't get through everything. Like, it was a long press conference, but we did touch on all the important topics, or enough of the important topics. But listen to what we're saying, because, you know what I'm saying, it's real important. But Jamin Davis is what we'll close out on. And it goes as follows when he spoke on Jamin. I think what it did for us in terms of was, let me read that again. I think what it did for us in terms of that was getting a better feel, understanding for what we think he really can become, and that he can be an edge guy for us. He can be an inside/outside linebacker. I'm trying to get it straight with 3-4 and 43. In the 43, he can be an outside linebacker. He can be a guy that goes out in space and run. We see his ability to run through contact. He can run with running backs, tight ends. He's a run through contact guy that can learn to get downhill with those and take on those double teams and help his defensive line up front. I think this is where he belongs right now. Will he become an inside middle guy? There's a chance still. I'm pretty excited to watch him come into that situation and not have to worry about trying to control or command anything as far as playing the position. I'm excited. I really am about him, and potentially if we can find the right inside guy, whether it be David Mayo or John Bostic or somebody else to work with those young guys as they develop. And I guess I'll kick this one off. AJ did touch on it for a brief second, but one of the things that Ron Rivera mentioned is obviously evaluating or looking into a versatile role for Jamin Davis, being able to be on the edge, but also like running a 43 and 34, the different roles that comes with that, but also a variety of areas that can kind of test his playmaking ability. At the end of the day, Like, they're not worried about if you have to command anything or if you have to put people in position on the defense, if you have to recognize something and give the communication efforts. You're taking the communication from the middle linebacker or the right inside guy that can help develop Jamin Davis and others, and Cole Holcomb, obviously. I think that they're experimenting, or they're willing to experiment with him and see what he can do best. I don't want to say Micah Parsons, like, because that's kind of what people, that's obviously the biggest name that you can bring up. But he's not on that level yet. He's not the awareness part is something that he's lacking. The ability to kind of see the field that Micah Parsons isn't seeing, like, that's just kind of where he's lacking. So I think that it wouldn't be fair to mention that name when you try to compare Jamin with him. But I think you have to start somewhere, and I think that is where they're determining his role. Like, where can they start? And wherever it is that they determine that, how is Jamin Davis going to prepare for that in the offseason? How is he going to study? How is all of these things going to, how is he going to work his body and develop his body to prepare for whatever role that they have for him in the offseason? I think this offseason is going to be just as big for Jamin Davis as it is for the coaches. And that's kind of where I'm at interpreting this quote from Ron Rivera on how they're going to move with Jamin Davis up front. Fellas, if you got any thoughts on Jamin, let's go ahead and get to that.
Yeah, I'll just go real quick. With Jamin Davis, I touched on the last week. I mean, it's, if he's not the middle linebacker, you thought you were getting when you drafted him, then obviously you'll probably never achieve the value of that pick, or he'll never achieve first round value, which is okay. Now you got that out of the way, and I'm glad Ron has acknowledged that, even though, as fans, we don't like that it took him a year to acknowledge that, and we don't like that that's what we got out of that pick. But at this point, going forward, the most important thing is, because you can't change what happened in the past, you have to get the most you can get out of this player. Now, if the most you can get out of him is maximizing his potential as an outside linebacker or as an edge guy, just put them in different roles, cool, do it. Because that's the only thing you have going forward. Like, you know he's not a middle linebacker, so you're not going to get that out of him. But you have to get the maximum value out of him now. And we can't cry over spilled milk now. Yes, sure, we didn't get the value we wanted, but now get the best you can out of this player going forward. And hopefully we see him start to maximize his potential on the outside
now. You got anything on this, or you take your piece? Rivera?
I just, like I said, man, I think it's very alarming that you have a personnel team, a scouting department that does all this background work on players, especially your first round pick, and you create this draft board, and you really took this guy to play middle linebacker. There's nothing in his game from Kentucky that told you he could play middle linebacker on the next level. Nothing. Can't take on blocks. Like, Jamin Davis is a athletically built guy, right? Like 6'3". He looked like he's probably about 225, just muscle. He looks more like a safety than a middle linebacker. And I understand that the league has changed as far as linebackers. But even like Darius Leonard, he's not even the best taking on blocks, but he knows how to get around blocks, and he knows how to make an impact on the play by punching out the ball when making a tackle. He's just an aggressive guy that goes 0 to 100. Whereas with Jamin Davis, there's nothing in this game that even shows you that he's instinctive in that manner. He's athletic. He can run sideline to sideline, but sometimes you don't even see him play that fast to indicate, hey, this guy could play middle linebacker in the NFC East, in the NFL on the big boy level. There was nothing in his game that would tell you that. So it's weird to hear Ron Rivera say that a year later. It's weird that they used the 19th overall pick on a guy of that nature. Like, that's why I get frustrated with Ron Rivera, because I don't trust his personnel decision making, and it scares me if this team can't acquire a quarterback. If they can't acquire a veteran quarterback such as a Watson, Wilson, or Rodgers, that he might go down the road of a Mitchell Trubisky or drafting the wrong quarterback. Like, He might go get a Sam Howell. He might go get a Matt Corral. Like, I don't trust him making personnel decisions.
I ain't doing that for Matt Corral. I don't know about that.
Hey man, that's a one-read pony right there. So
hey,
I mean,
right now that is true, but that don't mean he can get better. That's my guy. So
but yeah, so it's just
say
like,
that's not true.
But I think it should be more alarming to the fan base and also to the media. I don't even think they're going as hard as on him about it. But it's like, how can you take a guy 19th overall and then a year later, not even a year fully yet, but you say, oh, I think he's better at outside linebacker. What did you see in his tape at Kentucky through the pre-draft process? Like, some people even had this guy possibly being a third to fourth round pick.
Yeah, that's where initially was. The pre-draft process bumped him up, but that's
you took him first round, 19th overall, and then you ain't even selecting him to be an outside backer. You selected him to play your Mike. Come on, bro. Like, the man wasn't even making calls at Kentucky. So you thought he was gonna make calls on the NFL level? Like, no wonder. Like, even Holcomb said something about him. We don't have that quote up on here, but Holcomb said something like he was talking to Jamin Davis, and Jamin Davis was like, and Jamin Davis was like, why do I need to know that? Does that sound like a Mike linebacker to you? Like, bro, you on a team, you playing defense, you should know what everybody's assignment should be. Even if you a DN or D tackle, you should know what's going on behind you. Like, the fact that he even said that and Cole Holcomb said that out loud, like, that's alarming, bro. Like, I don't care how good of a guy he is, whatever the case might be, that boy ain't ready. So I guess if you just gonna use him the blitz and the A gap, I guess so. I don't know, but what can you really do with that, man?
I mean, I wouldn't. I get it, like blitzing and that's one important piece, right? But I don't know. He hasn't been terrible against tight ends and running backs. Like, he hasn't been terrible. Like, if he knows his assignment, he hasn't been terrible. And I think that's kind of where you have to allow him to kind of blossom and see if he can continue to develop and eliminate those needs for him to ask those questions like what are the other responsibilities that I need to communicate.
But Mual, right? During OTA's training camp, did you not realize that this man couldn't regurgitate the defense back to you? Regardless of being a rookie, right? If you had this man, you drafted him, you brought him in, and you wanted him to play Mike, right? And you noticed that he wasn't being able to regurgitate the defense back to you, everybody else's assignments, getting them lined up correctly, how could you then still try to force that upon him? That's not rookie jitters. You either understand the game or you don't.
Well, here's something, though. He didn't actually – remember early in the season before John Bostic got hurt, we didn't see Jamin Davis that much on the field. So that the plan may have been to bring him along more slowly than they brought him along, and maybe they would have used him more outside because John Bostic was being the Mike early on in the season. It wasn't until John Bostic got hurt that they started saying, all right, we'll try Jamin Davis. I will put him out in the field a little bit more. So I don't know if the plan was always to keep him at middle. I think that was, in the summertime, it sounded good. Like, okay, we could put Jamin at middle linebacker, see how much we could throw at him. But I think after they started seeing more of him in training camp, they realized we got to kind of minimize this guy's role because early in the season we didn't see that dude play at all.
But Dre, it becomes even more confusing because that means you use your 19th pick overall to instead get a contributor when you have a hole at linebacker. You went and got a project, and then in today's presser, you say, "I can't afford to take a first round pick and not be able to play him." I don't know if he was specifically talking about quarterback. But overall, how he said it was, I can't take a first-round talent, and they're not able to come in here and start right away.
Well, you can't do it 2 years in a row. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think that may have Jamin Davis may have factored into that answer you heard today. You can't afford that 2 years in a row.
So here's my thing, and I guess we can close out with this. I'll ask you all: because I can't close the book on Jamin yet. Not after 1 year, but we kind of know. I know where things are going.
I just closed it for you.
Hey, so listen. My question is, if they have him at outside linebacker or this I forgot what the term is, joker, I think, or whatever. If they have him at this role for this defense, and they find that Mike linebacker this offseason, does the pick still work if he's producing? Do you say that they wasted a pick if he ends up producing at a good level if they find a Mike linebacker in 2022 offseason, wherever it comes?
If he's producing and playing at more than 75% of the snaps on the field, no, you're not going to be mad at that at all. I mean, it's the 19th pick in the draft, and so you don't look at that as a high impact player, you know, but you do expect your first round pick to be a guy that's going to contribute and give you something. But if he's playing 20 to 30% of the snaps and he's doing an okay job, then no, I don't think that would have been worth the pick, because you can go out in free agency and get that type of production from anywhere.
Yeah, I know. I just knew AJ. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
I mean,
bro.
I don't even know what that looks like, bro. Like, because typically outside linebackers now in the 4-3 that's getting drafted first round. I'm not even a 4-3, but outside linebackers in the first round of draft picks are typically pass rushers and not really outside linebackers. So I don't even know what to compare that to at this point. I don't even know what that looks like. Like, I just don't see an instinctive player on the field when he does get snaps. I know that he's fast. I know he can run, but there's a lot of niggas out here that can run and have athleticism. So,
okay. All right. So catching up on a couple of comments, Alex, it's funny because I had William Jackson's comments in here. I'll just say it. And we're going to close out, but I did have William Jackson's comments in here. He mentioned in his exit conference that he was, in terms of his, let me actually read so I can get some more context. William Jackson III said things started to click for him and began playing his game within the scheme after the Tampa Bay game. So for the offseason, he wants to continue to work on his eyes. And the full quote was, I was used to having my eyes on one person, but now I have to see the field. I have to see it from a different point of view, a different perspective. So now I've opened up my vision, used my periphery.
Peripheral.
He said periphery.
Periphery. Okay.
Don't know how to, bro. I don't know how to say it, and it's blowing me. It's making me mad. So I'm not gonna say that word again. And see everything that is happening in front of me. So that is his quote, and I mean, obviously, we can dive into it, but I mean, we don't have to do it. Like, we kind of see where it is. Obviously, one thing he was used to, clearly, he has to learn some new things, and it's all about him in terms of his learning curve. If he's going to be able to pick it up, if he isn't, then we have to kind of circle back to the front office and the decision makers on signing a guy who clearly wasn't ready to take on the role that they hired him to take on. Okay.
And quick question though. I know we're trying to wrap up soon. But if you've been playing the league 5-6 years, do you want to learn something new? Like, you've made your money, you've made a name for yourself being a press man corner. I doubt that man signed here with the thoughts that he was about to be turned into a zone corner. Like, I'm pretty sure they sold that man on being a press man corner coming in here, and then they flipped the switch on him. But it's rocking because he's making $14 million a year. But at the end of the day, he's not getting to put up the numbers or being comfortable in the scheme that he thought he was signing up for. That makes absolutely no sense, bro. Like, if you're not going to use people and bring them in free agency-wise to do what they do best, it doesn't make sense to go and spend that big money, and other guys around the league are watching that. Like, they know who William Jackson is. Like, he's a solid corner. We all thought that was going to be a boost to the secondary. And then they brought that man in here and asked him to play zone like he Richard Sherman or some shit. Like, off man zone.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, I'll be quick with mine. I mean, I guess it goes hand in hand. The player and the coach. I mean, the player and the organization. Like, is the money worth, tarnishing your career, or potentially tarnishing your career? I'm not gonna say his career is tarnished, but is it worth it? Do you care? But secondly, like, if you do find yourself in that situation, how much are you willing to really pick up the new scheme, and how talented are you in that one aspect? where you can become better and improve your game in a way that you really didn't know that you can do. So that's a broad paintbrush on it, but I think that it's clearly a variety of factors that goes into a player signing somewhere. Money obviously attracted him to Washington, but how skillful of a cornerback is he? And I kind of think we don't know the answer yet, but clearly he struggled in his first year to pick things up.
Well, and I'll just say this. I mean, you don't like to see, the square peg round hole thing. And we do see that quite a bit here. And that can be an indictment on Jack Del Rio, as we touched on a couple of times. But I also say this, no team just plays press man coverage all game, every game. So at some point, you're going to have to play zone coverage. You got to be pretty decent at it when you do. So, that's something that William Jackson just has to get better at as a player. I mean, but obviously you still want to play him more to his strengths. But at the same time, you still also want to be better in all aspects of the game. I mean, he came from Cincinnati, a team that wasn't really ranking high in defensive stats, year in and year out. So, I mean, he may have been doing his thing, but that doesn't say that they, as a collective unit on defense, they were doing the right thing. So you want to see him become more well-rounded, and this is an off-season. He'll get the chance to do so. We got him under a big contract right now. So you want to see him just get better, at every aspect, but you also want to see going forward, if Jack Del Rio is going to continue coaching here, you want to see him use players more to their strengths instead of trying to make those players play, to his scheme.
So, I literally just forgot what I was about to say after you said that last part with William Jackson, but I agree with you. I'm just mad I forgot what the hell I was about to say.
All right.
All right, so let's go ahead and close out. Mike Marley, I see you, big dog. Appreciate you commenting. He thinks that Jamin is a bust, but it's also not Jamin Davis' fault. He feels like it's his fault given the situation. I'll give out our quote of the week and move on from there. So Mokahona, and I butchered his last name. I apologize, Mokahoma. But the quote of the week is: a genuine enemy is more useful than a fake friend. Ladies and gentlemen, a genuine enemy is more useful than a fake friend. Keep that in mind. Think about it. You know what I'm saying? Marinate, let it marinate, and understand your circumstances and how it relates to you in the world. Clearly, we talked about a lot of Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew. Did I say it right? Yes, thank God I did. Martin Mayhew and some of the player quotes today. So we won't dive at all into the quote of the week, but that is what it is. Schedule-wise, I'm back tomorrow for the All 32 side of the Trap or Die podcast. We will be previewing the Pittsburgh and Chiefs game with the Steelers guy from Locked On Steelers podcast. And then the fellas will be back on Thursday, AJ and Dre, to preview. We're done with the season. To recap the 2021 season, but also give our 5 fixes that will help this Washington football team in 2022 and the future. So with that being said, we're out of here. Appreciate everybody who stuck with us. This has been a good show. The viewers, you all have been consistent on all the platforms, man. It's been I appreciate y'all rocking with us. And appreciate the commenters, everybody who's been in there. So yeah, we'll be back Thursday. AJ and Dre and myself. We'll be back Thursday. So appreciate y'all for sticking with us. I'm back tomorrow for the All 32 side. Y'all be safe. Enjoy your evening. Smoke some, drink some, eat some, whatever. We out of here. Peace. How do I? Here we go. And boom.